All right, so get this. We're going deep today. Really deep, like biblical deep.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking Neville Goddard, the lecture Barabbas or Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
1963. Pretty old school, right?
Mm-hmm.
But hold on. The idea is, oh, they're anything but dusty. This guy, Goddard, he takes this whole biblical story, the trial, and he flicks it,
Yeah.
makes it into like this mirror for a choice we're making every single day.
Really? Every single day?
So, okay, we've got Barabbas, the guy that you usually just see as a criminal, and then, well, there's Jesus.
Right.
What's the deeper thing Goddard's trying to get at here with these two figures?
It's like see, he's saying Barabbas, he's like the poster child for living based only on what your senses tell you, All those limits we think we see.
He's kind of stuck in that box.
Yeah. And Jesus, on the other hand, he's that unseen potential we all have inside, the power to actually, shape our own reality.
So it's not really about religion then. It's about this choice, this fundamental decision. Am I going to let what's happening around me run the show, or am I going to tap into this inner power to create something different?
Exactly. And Goddard, he doesn't just throw this idea out there. He uses this amazing metaphor, a sheepfold, to show what he means.
Oh, I love a good metaphor. Lay it on me.
Okay, so picture this. All your desires, health, wealth, good relationships, even that dream job you've been thinking about, they're all sheep, just waiting there.
Okay, so I'm seeing a whole flock of sheep. Each one is like something I'm wanting. Keep going.
Now, here's the thing. The only way to get to these sheep, to those desires, it's through one specific door. And that door, it's the awareness of I am.
I am.
That power that's already inside each of us to make what we want real.
So if we're choosing Barabbas,
Yeah.
You're saying we're basically stuck outside the sheepfold.
Yeah.
Can't even reach those desires.
Yeah, it's like we're letting what is right now define who we are instead of realizing we have the power to change it all.
This is, whoa, it's making me think about all those times I felt stuck. Like things were just never going to budge.
Mm-hmm.
What if, in those moments, I was actually choosing Barabbas without even knowing it?
It's a big realization, right? And Goddard, he doesn't stop there. He gives real-life examples, people who did things that seemed totally impossible just by shifting their perspective.
Like switching teams, Barabbas to Jesus.
Yeah. He tells the story about this woman. She's in her 70s, no money to speak of, but she totally transforms her home just by using her imagination.
Yeah.
Vividly picturing it,
Okay, now that's wild.
She even ends up with more money than she ever expected. It's like the universe itself was backing her up on this vision.
My brain is doing backflips over here.
It's pretty amazing, right? And his point is, if she could renovate her whole place at that age just by how she was using her mind, what's stopping any of us?
I mean, seriously.
He says this power is available to everyone. It doesn't matter how old you are, what's happening around you, even if you believe it'll work or not.
Wait, even if we don't believe it, that's a bold thing to say.
It is bold. But for Goddard, I am isn't about faith. It's more like a principle, like gravity. It's always there, doing its thing, whether we know it or not.
So we're like swimming in this invisible force, all this potential, and we get to choose if we want to tap into it or not.
Precisely. And when we consciously align with I am, that's when life gets really interesting.
Interesting how?
We stop just reacting to what's happening. We start actively creating it. Much more fulfilling,
Okay, I got to say, this is shifting things for me already. But before we go too far down this rabbit hole, I'd love to hear what's really grabbed you about Goddard's message so far. Like, what stuck out the most?
I think it's how bold he is, saying we're all divine creators at our core, able to manifest anything we truly desire. But he's honest too. He knows that choosing Jesus, that inner power, it can be tough. It's like going against the flow, questioning everything we thought we knew about ourselves and the world.
Yeah, it's not always easy to choose faith over fear, especially when everything around you is screaming, this is how it is, deal with it.
Exactly. But maybe that's the whole point, to learn to see past those limits and really step into who we're meant to be.
Right on. And, Goddard actually gives us some real tools, techniques for tapping into and actually using this power.
Oh, so there's a how-to guide. I'm all ears.
There is. We'll get into those in a bit. But first, let's dig a little deeper into what he means by choosing Barabbas or Jesus. There's some really fascinating stuff there. It might resonate with you even more.
Okay, I'm ready to go deeper. So choosing Jesus in this whole allegory thing, we're saying it means tapping into our own power to create the reality we actually want.
Right.
But man, it's easy to say that, and then there's actually living it, right?
For sure.
Especially when, everywhere you look, it's all about limits, scarcity, that whole Barabbas vibe.
You're so right, and Goddard even talks about this, how stuff like news, ads, even just how people talk.
It can really mess with how we see what's possible, you know,
Ah,
like subtly training us to focus on what we don't have instead of what we could create.
so how do we, like, break out of that constant Barabbas messaging? How do we actually start choosing Jesus all the time?
Well, Goddard, he's got a pretty radical idea. He says we gotta basically tune out the external stuff, all that evidence, and just focus on how it feels to have what we want.
Look, so he's saying ignore what's right in front of us, even if it's not good?
Mm-hmm.
That seems a little, I don't know.
Counterintuitive, right? But think about that woman, the one who renovated her house. She didn't stare at her bank account and get all bummed out. She put herself right into the feeling of having that finished house, and bam, she got it.
So it's about shifting the focus from what is to what we want it to be, even if it's like a huge gap between the two.
Exactly. Goddard says true judgment, it doesn't have to stick to the facts, the outside facts. It depends on how strong our imagination is. We got to live in the end result, feeling the joy, the gratitude, like it's already happened.
Okay, now that could be a game changer. I get it. But it also sounds like it takes serious mental discipline.
Yeah.
How do you even start to ignore the doubts, the fears? Those always creep in, don't they?
Goddard actually talks about this too. He says, don't try to kill the doubt. Feed the faith. It's not about like shoving down the bad thoughts. It's more like directing our energy towards what we do want to believe.
I like that. It's like choosing to water a plant instead of going crazy trying to pick every single weed.
Perfect analogy. And just like a plant needs that constant care, our faith in our own power, it's the same way.
Got to keep nurturing it.
Through practice, paying attention, yeah.
So even if we have those moments, the doubts, we can always come back to that idea, feeding the faith, getting back to how it feels to have what we want.
You got it. And remember, Goddard says this power is always on whether we're aware of it or not. So even when we doubt that I am principle, it's still there, just waiting for us to line up with it.
Okay, so we've been talking about Barabbas and Jesus, like
Right.
metaphorically, right? But Goddard, he actually gets into what those names mean, right?
Oh, yeah, he does. He points out that Barabbas actually means son of the Father, and Jesus means Savior. And then he connects this back to I am being the real Father, the real Savior.
Whoa, now we're getting deep.
Right. So what he's saying is when we identify with our senses, with all our limits, we're basically choosing Barabbas, the son, who's still kind of stuck in the material world.
So we're stuck in that loop, reacting to everything instead of creating.
Exactly. But when we choose Jesus, when we embrace that power of I am, that's when we line up with the true Father, the one who sets us free.
I see. So it's about where our power really comes from, recognizing that it's the I am inside us, and then like choosing to use that instead of getting lost in all the illusions and limitations.
You got it. And remember the sheepfold. Goddard's saying there's only one way in to get those desires, and it's through that I am awareness.
So even if we're trying to like force things to happen with willpower or just external effort, it's basically the wrong approach.
It is. We got to go through that door of recognizing our own power, the creative power we already have.
It's crazy empowering, but it also makes me think about like responsibility. If we really have this power, that comes with some heavy stuff, right? Goddard talks about that too, doesn't he?
He does. He even tells the story about someone asking him to, get this, manifest someone's death for money.
Oh, wow. That's dark.
Yeah, and of course Goddard refused. He knew that this power isn't about manipulating things for selfish reasons. It's got to be about our highest good, using our imagination to create something more loving, more fulfilling for everyone.
That's a really important point. It's not just about getting what we want. It's about making sure our desires are like in line with our values and that they're good for everyone.
Absolutely. Goddard even compares it to Peter and John in the Bible. They were told to stop talking about Jesus, and they were like, nope. We can't not share what we've seen and heard.
So it's not just about believing it for ourselves. It's about like sharing it with others, inspiring them to choose Jesus, that inner power too.
Yeah, I love that way of putting it. Goddard's message, it's both powerful and inspiring, you know. He's calling us to wake up, remember who we really are, these divine creators, and then use our imaginations to make a world that reflects that love, that beauty that's inside all of us.
This is so much bigger than just like interpreting the Bible. It's a call to action, like step up and use your power, create the life you're meant to have.
I totally agree, and he doesn't try to make it sound easy either. Choosing Jesus, it can be hard. It means questioning everything, going against the grain.
But man, the rewards. Think about what's possible if we all started living from that place. That we are Jesus, that divine I am in human form.
What a powerful thought.
It is. It's like a whole new world opens up.
It does, and Goddard, he doesn't just leave us hanging. He actually gives us tools, techniques for using this power. Like he talks about really getting into the state of having what you want as if it's already real.
And he really gets into that name Jesus too, right? Yerd Hivau Shinayin. How it's all about taking the stuff you don't want and using your imagination to create something new.
Exactly. He's showing us we can rewrite our whole reality, not by pretending things aren't how they are, but by choosing to see and feel differently.
It's like he's saying, don't let what you see control you. Use your imagination to create what you want to see.
And he's got tons of examples from his own life, other people's lives, to prove it actually works. This isn't just theory.
Okay, this is mind-blowing. This whole Barabbas and Jesus story, it's like it unlocks this crazy potential inside us. But I still have so many questions, like, how do we actually do this? How do you cultivate that belief, that feeling of having what you want when it seems so far away?
Those are great questions, and luckily Goddard's got some solid advice on how to do just that. And that's exactly what we're going to get into in the last part of our deep dive.
Okay, so let's get down to brass tacks here. We've talked a lot about the theory, but how do we actually use this stuff in our lives, like day to day?
Well, Goddard gives us some actual techniques, and they all revolve around using our imagination and our feelings together.
So it's not just thinking about what we want, it's got to be feeling it too, like it's already real.
You got it. He calls it living in the end. It's like shifting our whole mindset to where we don't feel that lack anymore, that longing. Instead, it's all about the joy, the gratitude, as if we already have it.
That makes sense, but I got to be honest, that sounds way easier said than done, you know?
Ah!
Especially when, like, my current situation is so far from that ideal.
Oh, I hear you. It's a process. But Goddard, he has this technique, he calls it revision. It's kind of like editing a movie, where you go back and mentally change any negative stuff that happened and replace it with how you wanted it to go.
So, like, if I had a totally stressful commute, I'd go back and imagine it being smooth, enjoyable, feeling that relief, that ease.
Exactly. And by doing this, revising our experiences over and over, we're basically retraining our subconscious mind to actually believe in that new reality, the one we want.
It's like we're saying, nope, this is the version of my story I'm sticking with.
Exactly. It's powerful stuff.
I can see that. But what about, the doubts, the fears? Those always seem to pop up, for me at least.
Goddard knew that doubt was going to happen. He even said, don't try to kill the doubt, feed the faith.
That's a good one. I like that. So it's more about shifting our focus. Instead of fighting the negativity, we just put our energy towards what we do want.
That's the key. And he talks a lot about persistence, Like if you planted a seed, you wouldn't dig it up every day to see if it was growing. We got to trust that with the right conditions, what we want will happen.
True. It's so easy to get impatient, want things to happen, and now.
It is. Patience is huge here. And remember, Goddard's whole thing is that this power works whether we believe it or not. So even when we doubt that I am principle, it's still doing its thing. It's up to us to line up with it through our thoughts, feelings, actions, the whole package.
This is seriously empowering. It's like we've been given this amazing gift, this ability to shape our own reality. But then somewhere along the way, someone told us to ignore it or that it's not even real.
It's true. So many of us have been taught to doubt ourselves.
And Goddard is all about reminding us, hey, you're a divine creator. Remember, wake up.
That's the message, loud and clear.
And he doesn't just leave it at that. He gives us the tools to actually use this power. It's not just some airy-fairy concept. It's something we can actually do to change our lives.
That's what makes it so cool. It's both profound and practical.
Okay, so we keep coming back to this idea that we are Jesus, that divine I am in human form. What does that actually mean to you? Like, what could our lives be like if we really lived from that place?
That is the question, isn't it? For me, it's about seeing that inherent divinity in everyone, that creative spark that connects us all. And if we really lived from that awareness, I think we'd experience a level of love, compassion, creativity that we can barely even imagine right now.
It's like stepping into a whole new way of being human.
Exactly. We'd see the world through the lens of possibility, not limitation. We'd act with courage, knowing we have the power to create change. No more being victims of circumstance. We'd be the ones creating our destiny.
That is a beautiful vision. It's like we're being invited to step up, reclaim our power, and create a world that reflects the love and beauty that's already inside us.
That's the challenge Goddard gives us, to choose Jesus, embrace the I am, and live a life that's truly extraordinary.
And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive. Wow, what a journey. I'm feeling so inspired, ready to put all this into practice. What about you?
Me too. It's been amazing exploring this with you.
A huge thank you to everyone for joining us on this deep dive into Neville Goddard's Barabbas or Jesus. I highly recommend checking out the lecture for yourself. Let these ideas sink in, see what speaks to you. You might be surprised at what you discover. Until next time, choose wisely.